Also, I'd like to thank you for allowing me into your homes for this 10th edition of Season 3 of Esoteric Science Roundtable. And the first thing I would like to mention is this magazine, Duality Magazine, that has the most recent edition out now, and you would probably be able to find this several places around town, here at Access and a number of other places. This is a completely free magazine that has some really interesting articles. It combines the metaphysical type articles with more political articles, and tries to meld those two and have a compromise between those two bodies of information, and have some common meeting ground between those two topics. And so this is a great magazine that is being put out locally by two very hardworking young ladies, and it's absolutely free, which is the best thing about it. And there's some great articles in here as well. That's the best thing about it, and the effort that's being put into it is the best. But again, absolutely free magazine. Can't hardly beat that with a stick, and it's got a lot of great information in it. So I would encourage folks to try to look for this if you have an opportunity. We'll also have upcoming on the 21st, the metaphysical and philosophical discussion groups that Jeff Contreras from Therefore I Am and us here at Esoteric Science Roundtable host. And this third Wednesday will be the 21st of January. And it starts around 8 p.m. and we meet in the upstairs portion of Opal Divines. Very casual, very free. Just come upstairs, look for myself, Jeff, and just have a seat and start having a conversation or listening to a conversation, what have you. And just make yourself at home. It's, again, very relaxed, casual atmosphere, and we just try to encourage people to come if they have questions about things they may have seen that we've discussed, or if they have some other things that they're interested in that they'd like to share with us. We're always interested. It's a great way for us to meet people and exchange ideas, and so that's the main reason why we pull these things off and try to, again, have a good forum for exchange of ideas, like Access Television is in itself. And today's topic that I would like to discuss is unfolding. And when I use the word unfolding, I would like to refer to the unfolding of consciousness and how the unfolding of consciousness plays out through our Earth and through the different life forms and the variety of kingdoms and all the myriad various life that's in expression right now on the planet and elsewhere for that matter as well, and how that is all intimately tied together, and how there's a definite surge, a definite motion and momentum to, again, unfold consciousness and all the aspects that entails. Unfolding of consciousness has been going on for a long amount of time on this planet, and consciousness unfolds not through just humanity, the portion of the life on the planet that can say that I am self-conscious, that I am self-aware, that in the sense that our humanity can, and then the lesser kingdoms and higher kingdoms that are from the human kingdom but have passed on to higher points of evolution, and how all this intimately works together in a great grand system based on divine law, and how this unfolding manifests and the process that is carried out in order to accomplish certain ends. And I'm going to try to touch upon some of those concepts and ideas. And to start, the process of unfolding of consciousness entails influencing from different sources on our humanity, on what we think about, in our environment, and many aspects of human life that cause us to think about things in a certain way and react a certain way. And if we understand and consider how our human expression has developed into different branches, we can see that certain influences are going to be the predominant influences in these different areas of endeavor. Now, if we want to consider them a bit, I would like to touch upon the 7 different differentiated aspects of human consciousness, is how it's working out through areas of work, and how that ties into the other areas of work, and how that is part of this evolutionary unfolding process. Now, considering the 7 main differentiations of human effort or endeavor. If we start with the first one that I want to discuss, which is the governmental, or leadership aspect of our humanity, and leadership and governmental control at various levels, because certainly we realize there's city, state, county, county, state, nations, and then there's international exchange as well that takes place that we have to consider, and there are international bodies that are governmental in a certain sense, and certainly we can consider some of the court systems that are trying to become more globalized and things of that nature that are, quite frankly, are points of concern for certain individuals. And that's just an aspect of things having to work itself out, because everyone's going to, well, different people are going to feel that different means of justice are better, and to try to amalgamate one way and try to come up with one method for all peoples is going to, there's going to be some difficulty in achieving something like that, because different cultures perceive of justice in different ways. Some cultures completely outcry the death penalty. Our American culture, we seem to be a bit more fond of it. Not everyone, obviously, but there are certain individuals, and that's the way of law that's being emphasized here, and certainly in Texas, where so many people are executed, we can understand that. Now, considering the governmental influence that filters down, certain individuals are going to find themselves in key positions, whether that be just the mayor, whether that be police chief, what have you. And there are different circumstances that are going to factor into these people being put into power. And we can consider, certainly they might be elected, appointed, what have you, those factors. But nonetheless, the way in which people are put into power, there is reason and there is order behind that, and that is of a divine nature, ultimately, that the people that need to be in power are going to be in power. Now, whether they were, again, appointed, elected, however they came into power, dictatorship, whatever the case may be, sleight of hand, or overwhelming support by the public, whatever the case may be, we always find that the leaders that are right and proper for us are going to make themselves manifest at given times. And we get the leaders we deserve. Now, some people may be saying, oh, we've got horrendous leadership in the world, but ultimately we get the leaders that we deserve. And I would ask that people keep in mind that if we have a government that, governmental policies that are not too savory and people are not fond of, then that governmental entity that's causing us to want to move away from their policies, these things are put into place for us to react against. And so if we're going along smoothly and everybody was happy with everything, there would be no real reason for our evolution here. And that would defeat the purpose of the divine law and the way things are manifesting themselves, that we can point to and we can see the patterns as they unfold, again, unfolding of consciousness. That's not going to be something that everybody's going to adhere to necessarily, but this is an esoteric approach, this is an esoteric means to try to derive some understanding about these things. And so, again, governmental agencies and entities are going to be put into place, and the ones that are right and proper for the particular countries are going to find their way. Now, whether that be socialist governments or whether that be more of a democratically elected republic like we have here, or any number of variations, again, different cultures are going to adhere to certain ways of governing, and they're going to express that in their cultures. And not every form of government is right for every other culture, and that's why there are different forms of government that exist on the planet, because these are ideas that are expressing themselves and still working themselves out among our humanity. And so they are by no means perfect, and they're definitely still in the process of evolving. And human minds and human hearts are putting their 2 cents worth in at all times at various levels, whether you're just sitting in your armchair fussing about, income taxes are too high, or whether you're out in a lobbyist position, or any number of roles that you may find yourself in everyone's going to be playing a part at some level. And that's what's unique in this day and age, is that people contributing their thinking to these issues are actually putting things into effect. And by means of communication and the way that technology is changing so rapidly, these ideas find their way from the armchair into an inception and into some real birthing process. They find their way into manifestation much more quickly in this day and age because of various apparatuses that we have available, technology related and otherwise, that provide the means for that. And also, if we want to consider the educational aspect, we can see how that also is evolving, and things are changing to meet the needs of humanity, and how our current culture, what current culture needs, and how that's is reflected in how the education system tries to meet those needs. Now, certainly there are a lot of detractors for our education system as well, but by and large, on a global scale, people are, not everyone, but there are a large number of individuals on the globe that can read and write and communicate, and that is step one for all the other things to be added onto for us to have any kind of exchange, whether that be trade and exchange, policy exchange, ambassadorial exchanges, and expressions of goodwill, offerings up of goodwill towards other nations. These things, we find these things playing out through various educational means, and how these things are going to try to make their way, try to be made appropriate to the situation and the times. And so education, again, does fall short of many of the desired goals, and also considering the vast amount of money that's thrown at education, and how little, I feel, is received, as far as real gain to a student. It's very disproportionate to the money spent as far as what's actually gotten back, in terms of education and betterment for our youth. And this is a vast subject to get into as well, so I just want to touch on each of these briefly, and just kind of look at some of the unfolding aspects of each of these. And then the third portion would be philosophy. Everybody on the planet has their philosophy, whether they be a plumber, whether they're a politician, whether they are a philosopher, or whatever walk of life you find yourself in. Everyone is going to have their own philosophy, their own ideas about things, and so that finds its way into expression in this day and age more so because more people are starting to think in those terms, and they're starting to think about how they think about the world, and they start to form their ideas and their philosophy. And then again, considering technology and exchange, these ideas can find their way into they can garner a wider audience, and get greater appeal because of technology and things like that, that individuals' philosophical concepts and notions and ideas can be adapted or adopted on a global scale in certain cases. And we find that, again, this is all part of an unfolding evolutionary process, that these things find their way into our physical plane manifestation at the right and proper time, and that there are laws that govern this expression, and we can make use of these laws and understand them more so with some honest and earnest study, and looking into patterns and analogies, and looking at how humanity relates to nature and vice versa, and that symbiotic relationship and exchange, and how that works together. We can learn much from that understanding of our role in the larger picture, and how we can, again, make some progress in this unfolding evolutionary process that we're all part of, whether we realize it or not. And that's another aspect too. Whether we're cognizant and understanding of this evolutionary process or not, we're still part of it. And everyone at their own level of understanding is moving forward and progressing. Now, certainly some people may say that, they may feel that their life is a step back, and that their life is negative, and things are not going so well. But still, it's still part of a larger process of unfolding. It's because we need these things to give us perspective and give us proportion, and give us a larger aspect of understanding. And so these challenges come into our lives for a reason. The fourth would be arts and culture, and we can see how that's changing different styles of music melding and coming together, and we see there's things, the lines are great as far as types of music because there's so much borrowing from other styles of music. The literary world, we have access to the internet now, and so books are being published online. There's a wealth of information, reading material that's available online. Periodicals are still popular, and we still find magazine subscriptions are still popular. And so that's another means of culture and art. Museums, for that matter as well. We can find rare art and beautiful art online. We may not be able to see the actual original with our own eyes and be in the presence of the original masterpiece, but nonetheless, we can still get a good representation of that work of art via internet and things of that nature. And so this is allowing our understanding and our artistic appeal and possibilities to blow up as well. And that's with the music exchange and music downloads and people being able to put their demos online for other people to check out. I mean, these are just examples of exchange taking place globally that's allowing for unfolding of culture and arts and artistic endeavor. And just one small example. Along the scientific realm, we see that there are different inroads being made to try to... Man is trying to always gain, control of the material sphere. And so science is always trying to, create, and mankind is always trying to create in the image of the Creator at some level, whether we're cognizant of it or not. And so science is doing this as well by trying to clone and things of that nature, trying to map the genome and these kind of projects that are allowing us to have our proper place as creators. And certainly there are ethical and moral issues that come into play with all that, and they have to be considered. But these things are going to continue to unfold. It's just how do we use this science in the most productive, ethical, and moral means, and help the most people that we can, and things of that nature. And so that's one aspect. Also, with this exploration to Mars that we've been having lately, the little European or British probe, the little Beagle, it didn't bark, so nobody heard about anything from it, and so it's kind of, nobody really knows. But the American Spirit vessel did actually make it supposedly to Mars and is doing its thing, taking pictures. And so now we hear some of the rumors that have been running around for a while seem to be true, that our government is considering another moon mission. They're going to try to get back to the moon, and then perhaps from that place, from that position from the moon, try to launch out to other areas. And that's just one small aspect of us reaching out, and how we're starting to, in greater fashion, find that we're not just the earthbound terrestrial, just the earthbound terrestrial aspects of our unfolding are very important, but yet there's a more inclusive, larger picture that we're part of, and we're starting to understand that, and we're starting to reach out and spread our tentacles out a little farther. And there's certainly concerns from certain factions that, well, we're just going to go and goof up some other places. We've already ruined this place, so let's go out, reach out, branch out, and ruin another planet. And that's certainly a valid consideration as well, in light of the motives of some of the people that run things. And so that's one aspect of science. Also, the internet again, things are being offered up. You can find scientific papers on the internet. You can find so much as far as research and things of that nature. And again, the ability to exchange instantly and globally via that medium is really important. Also, I want to emphasize that I feel that certain aspects of science are going to have to embrace things that are more natural and more holistic. And so I've made this analogy or example before, but I feel that perhaps in the future that computers will be organic, made out of like vegetable matter, for lack of a better term, and that there can be some sort of a melding of organic and electronic components, and that can somehow be implemented in the future. As far as nanotechnology and things of that nature, there are some people that feel that man is going to merge with machine, and that we'll take chips and we'll take the nanotechnology, we'll have little robots in our bodies, little machines in our bodies that will be running around, zapping viruses or doing little maintenance work to keep us healthy. And that, just from my estimation, is not really a real good approach to consider, because that's something that's, I feel, is against divine law by trying to incorporate machines and trying to meld our organic substance with something that's again, electronic or some kind of device like that. To me, is a step backwards ultimately. I mean, this thing, it may be high tech beyond all imagination, but merging ourselves with a machine, I think, is a false way to perceive of how to proceed, and as well, it's indicative of fear of death as well. When we get so wrapped up on trying to live forever and ever and ever, and trying to create devices to keep us promulgated and around forever and ever and ever, there's no real good reason for that in my estimation either. Once we understand more so about the nature of divine law, karma and reincarnation, and how these unfoldings of consciousness and energies exchange, then we can get a better grasp of life, death, dream consciousness, waking consciousness, unfolding of consciousness, levels of consciousness that we may not be able to perceive with our human senses, all these things that factor in that we're still, our perception is limited in this human body. And so science can allow us in certain ways to reach out and perceive things that we couldn't perceive with just our bodies. But I am a big proponent of the idea of meditation, and through my personal experience and what I've been able to, I guess I could use the word accomplish, my firm belief and understanding and what I've been able to achieve through this means leads me to believe that that's the way in which man can best derive much information. Now, certainly I was talking about the internet and things like that, but I feel that the internet is kind of like a modern-day version of the Alexandrian library that was in existence back in Egypt, in the ancient Egypt days, that was destroyed, that contained thousands and thousands of scrolls and archives and records and things from all cultures around the globe at that time that existed. And so that effort to compile information and to exchange between cultures has always been there in man. It's always been very strong within man, and that may be somewhat not so well known to people, that the Alexandrian library did indeed contain vast amounts of information from all over the globe, from all of the learned and cultured peoples of those times. And the reasons why the library was destroyed were political and religious, and so we lost so much that we have had at one point by virtue of zealous people that want to destroy things out of ignorance in many instances. And so science can help out in that respect. And again, the internet being kind of a modern-day version of what was established in Alexandria in ancient Egypt, the idea of exchanging ideas and having a great library of learning and again, cultural exchange, that the internet is very akin to that. If it would be even more so, without all the smut and all the gambling, that it would mirror more so even the concept of the Alexandrian library. But nonetheless, I mean, that's part of our human unfolding and evolution too, that we have to work out those aspects of our inner nature as well and come to terms with things that, our sexuality and things like that we have to work out as well. That's another unfolding consciousness issue that is very real and valid. And so science, again, one other aspect of unfolding, and the more science is delving into different discoveries, the more science acquiesces with divine law and with what's been established through the so-called mystery tradition of all ages and esoteric knowledge that's been compiled and kept and passed along through certain institutions from the get-go, that we can see science, aligning itself and finding itself in accord more so with these ancient ideas. And as time progresses, I think that will only continue to blossom more in that respect. And that relationship will be more of a respectful relationship between science and I don't want to say religion because that's not the proper term, but spirituality or metaphysics. Science and the metaphysical will come to more of an agreement in the future, and we can see that unfolding on a practically an hourly basis. In all honesty, that perceptions are changing constantly. Our human perceptions and what we thought was accurate at one time, from minute to minute, is liable to change in this day and age. There's so much pliability and opportunity for change. Also, the sixth aspect of that is the religious dispensation, and we can see that there are still many different sects and varieties of religion. There are certainly thousands, hundreds of thousands, I would say, different varieties, sects of the various religions that all exist for a reason, and that they're all some expression or some a means for some individual to find their way back to divinity. And so religion, again, there being various religions still in existence, there's a reason for that. And so still certain cultures are going to find that certain religions are the ones that they're going to gravitate towards, and that's right and fit and proper for our humanity. Again, if everybody believed the exact same thing or liked the same kind of ice cream or whatever, things would be a little bit boring around here. And so it's wonderful that of the 6 billion people on this planet in existence, we have 6 billion modes of perception and 6 billion modes of expression for creativity and the divine creative expression to make its way through. And so it's really a wonderful opportunity for us to recognize that diversity that we have and celebrate our shared diversity and respect our shared diversity. That's part and parcel of what we have to accomplish in the future to get along as humanity. And we're making inroads slowly, but we are making progress. I feel confident. It's taking time, but and it's a bit of a painful endeavor, but we can pull this off. I have confidence. And then the lastly would be financial. And we can see how things are changing so drastically in the financial realm as well, that the monetary system is changing, it's becoming more globalized, and the actual currency is changing. Now you've got the euro, perhaps in the future we'll have the Amero, different ways in which people can exchange and barter, and also ways in which exchange and barter can be tracked and controlled. And that's the key thing as well. It's the financial mechanism that's in place right now is not spiritual by any stretch, and it's going to take much reform for that institution to be respectful of the many and not just exclusively in place to prop up a handful of individuals. And also considering where is money these days. You can think of money sleeping in the banks at night, but there isn't really money in the banks. It's just a series of ciphers and zeros and ones that's rapidly zipping around the planet that indicates transactions. If you order something online, you're not actually sending people cash or a check in most instances. You're using numbers on a card, and that translates to numbers in a digital code that makes that transaction, and then subsequently the order's transferred and can be shipped to you. So that's one example of how finance and that trade and commerce is changing and having to change and alter to meet the needs of our culture in our day and age. Money is in trust. There are many trusts that are huge institutions that take money from usually private sources in many cases, donations and what have you, or from very wealthy people that consider themselves philanthropic, and they want to offer up their money for different projects. These projects, most of them are they're supposed to be in the benefit of the bulk of humanity. It doesn't always seem that it works out that way in every case, but nonetheless, these trusts are constantly working to influence different aspects, and they'll fund any number of things: educational programming. They'll fund many different things. They'll fund polling places and things of that nature. So we see how trust can influence quite a bit as well. The people that put their weight behind these trusts can do much to influence. And so if you find a wealthy person that has set up one of these trusts, or they're the children or what have you are part of this, then you can see, again, there's a lot of times there's some sort of an agenda set up. Also, there's a lot of money in the church coffers around the world, and that's unfortunately not always going to feeding starving children. Some of it's going to pay off lawsuits. Some of it's going to make nice stained glass windows in buildings that aren't really going to do much for the salvation of anyone necessarily. There's no real livingness in that as far as I'm concerned, unfortunately. And then aside from that, the lending institutions, the World Bank and things of that nature, in the Federal Reserve, the institutions that create money, and that are in place right now to implement some kind of exchange and barter system on a global scale. And we see that's changing as well. Taxation and things like that are coming into play, and really what's going to have to take place is there will have to be at some point in time in the future probably a global currency, and that's not the most savory concept for everybody, or I don't know, means for us to still honor other currency. But I think there probably will be a one currency in the future, like it or not, as to whether it's going to be debit style, currency style, coin style. That is, yet to be worked out, but likely it will manifest at some point in time. It's just really what we have to guard is the intent. How is the intent and the motivation for the monetary system going to be carried out? And how is it going to be implemented in an equitable way so that fairness, can take place and people can actually make a living? And it's becoming increasingly more and more difficult to do that as more people are understanding, and there's competition for the few jobs that are out there, and that just keeps going and going. And so we see this energy unfolding, and we see through these different aspects of human endeavor how influences are coming into the minds of men. And it may crop up in a new scientific device or some new social program that somebody's thought of, and that this idea comes into somebody's head, and it can be implemented, and it can be popularized, and then made into some sort of a policy, or made into something that people can use. And we see, again, different key individuals. You can always look at the movers and the shakers in these different areas, and who is making things happen, who are the key influential figures in any of these areas, and the publications that are like peer-reviewed scientific journals, for instance, in the case of science, educational journals, things like this, where these ideas are considered, discussed, and then at some point perhaps implemented and used. And so again, this exchange is going on at all levels of human endeavor, and internationally more so and more so. It's just, how are these things going to play out? Are they going to play out in the instance of a handful of people gaining benefit from these exercises, or are more people going to be able to benefit from any of these things: governmental education, philosophy, arts and culture, science, religion, finance? Again, the more we watch these areas too, the more we can gain understanding, and that's part of esoteric science as well. Watching what's manifesting and seeing the trends and intuiting what's going to happen in the future, and intuiting and understanding the divine influences that come into being, that make these things possible, and that play out through our physical plane and through our humanity, that make these ideas possible, and that make some ideas more appealing to humanity than others. I mean, everybody's got their own personal opinions and choices, and some people like pepperoni in their pizza, and some people like pineapple. So it really just depends. It all boils down to personal perception. But nonetheless, to get back to the idea of unfolding, we are all in the process of unfolding our consciousness through our human condition, and we're all working at that, whether we realize it or not. Everybody is out to better themselves in some way or another, whether that's, to get an education, get a good job, family, raising a great family, beautiful kids, things like that. Everybody's looking to improve their lot in one way or another. The idea and the key is to try to be respective of everyone else while you're looking for what you're looking for, and helping, hopefully helpful to others as well. When we can all uplift each other and support each other's ambitions and goals while still respecting our own interest, then we have something real to work with. And we can, again, uplift one another by encouraging others in their endeavors, helping in others with their other people's endeavors, but still, keeping our own nose to the grindstone with what we need to take care of. And there can be that mutual exchange and uplifting that will continue to blossom and blow up as time progresses. It's going to be incremental and exponential in that in shorter amounts of time, more progress and expansion and unfolding will be evident. And if we just open our eyes and try to connect these dots a little bit. I mean, certain aspects of this are follow the money. If you follow the money, certainly you can see how influence is played out and paid out on a vast scale. Follow the money, and then again, just trusting our intuition on what we feel is right and proper and just. There's a reason why we have that little gnawing voice inside of us that tells us, oh no, don't do this, or yes, do that. Many of us have a dilemma with that as to how to proceed, but that voice is right, and that voice is our inner nature. And so the sooner we can acknowledge it and have it be a clearer channel of expression for our own inner divine nature, again, the more we can have this exchange, this uplifting, and humanity can help one another on a vast scale. And these social problems and these financial problems and these governmental and scientific shortcomings will be a thing of the past, because there will be concerted effort, more so and more so, people coming together to try to tackle these problems. The old, established, entrenched, what's in place now has to subside in order for some of these new ideas to come into place. In some cases, the old order is bringing things into being on a global scale that will be taken over, if you will, not in a forceful manner, but will be passed down, in a sense, to people that can make more spiritual use of these institutions. The great structure that's being put into place on a global scale, that's this global new world order system of implementation that so many speak of, that we can really see unfolding, some attribute negative, intent to that unfolding. And so it's incumbent upon us, as we gain greater understanding, to see how we can find our way into this unfolding, and in every area of human endeavor, governmental, educational, philosophical, all these places, find our way in to uplift these institutions. The old established, entrenched establishment is there in place for a reason, but again, certain things are going to have to change for a freer expression. Because if we look at congestion and stoppage, financial is probably the best example of that our finances are locked up and frozen at certain key points. There's no real free flow of this monetary, like blood through the whole system in a real abundant and living and healthy manner. It's stopped up, it's locked up in certain key spots, and it's not able to flow and do the good that it could do. And that's because of misconceptions, ignorance, greed, materialism, and the policies that are put into place that are manipulative in many means. And so the more we understand about this, the more we can make all of these institutions flowing and cohesive, living things for the uplifting and unfolding of our human consciousness. Governmental can be cohesive, educational, philosophical, arts and culture, science, religion, finance, all these things can be altered and made into a place or a point where they can be more useful and more beneficial for larger numbers of individuals on the globe. And there are people in place, in plenty of places in these institutions that are implementing these ideas little by little. And it's going to take time, but it only takes a handful of motivated individuals in the proper places to get the dominoes falling and get things rolling in the right manner. And it is my firm, confident outlook, my personal confident outlook on this whole situation when I assess it, that this is taking place and this is unfolding, is really happening in front of our eyes, and it's going to continue to do so in a more rapid succession as we, gauge and watch and are able to see it unfolding. It really is. It is in evidence as far as I'm able to ascertain, and so I have a lot of confidence as a result of that. And I would like to encourage other people to think in those terms as well, or consider those things, that just because things look bad on the surface with some of these different areas, these bad, negative things have to come to the surface so the healing can take place, and so that this new influx of ideas and this fresh, refreshing can take place. We can refresh what's becoming outworn, outdated, stale, and no longer useful for our humanity. We have to keep that livingness. Just like our body regenerates, old cells die and they, fingernails grow and we trim them off and they continue to grow. And this whole system, we can follow that system of how we continually renew and refresh and restore ourselves. Our health and vitality on a global scale can be, we can achieve optimum health if we have that goodwill, right human relations, and the motive, the will to do this, the will to come together and help uplift our humanity, uplift our fellow men. It's really up to us. Everybody's got something they can contribute in their own area. It's just up to them as to how they want to implement it. What is it that you have skills doing? Artistic, governmental, social, scientific, religious, philosophical, financial, all these educational, whatever it may be. We find our niche, and then we do what we can to excel in that area, and hopefully in an unselfish manner. That's my hope for all of us, that we can proceed and offer at least a little something up. Certainly we want to do things for ourselves, but if we can make one unselfish offering, I'm not saying on a daily basis, an hourly basis, or whatever, but whatever we feel is adequate to offer up, this process can be that much more sped up and much more fruitful for all of us. So it's really up to us as to what we want to offer. How much, to what degree, it's what can we give? Everybody can give something, and I don't mean monetarily. I mean giving of your energy, your effort, your time, your understanding for the betterment of us all. So let me go ahead and grab a call and see what's going on this evening. Hello, caller, you're on the air.
Can I come inside you?
Hello, caller, you're on the air.
Corey?
Yes.
How are you doing?
Good, yourself?
Good. How do you think that unfolding will, help someone in their day-to-day, like going to work and school and things like that?
Okay, I'll go with that question. Really, that's every single day. Once you start thinking about these things, you can start disciplining yourself in a manner in which you each day try to get off on the good foot and try to go forward with the best possible intent. And that's why people meditate in the morning, or perhaps pray or contemplate in the morning. They want to get off on the good foot, and so they want to go forward in the best way possible. And so when you can discipline yourself to get on that good foot to start, and then not let things get you off the good foot during the day, whether that be traffic, whether that be somebody yelling at you at work, or any number of things that are going to upset you. Maybe you went to go get some lunch and the food was not ready, or they got your order wrong or something, and that's going to factor into you being upset. So it's really just checking yourself at all times. Man, know thyself is what the Greeks would say, is what they did say back in their heyday, and there's an important reason why they emphasize those words so much. When we understand ourselves and we look at ourselves, why do I feel this way about this? Why am I interacting this way with this particular person? Why do I not like this person? Why does this person get on my nerves? All those things that we factor in during the day. And when we can get to a place where we're allowing, and these things don't annoy us as much, and we stay on that good foot, stay on that good positive upswing, then we can make some real progress. And so that unfolding can be what we can emphasize, rather than being so distracted on, oh man, that guy's bugging me, or I'm going to be late for this, or I got to pay for this, or, you know, any number of things. So it's just really a matter of disciplining ourselves and not being distracted, so that we can let that spiritual, again, that congestion, that's an idea, that's another concept of congestion, and these distractions are like congestions that rob us of our energy. Once we get the distractions out of the way, we can have a clearer flow of energy, and we can be more productive in whatever we're trying to do. Hello, caller, you on the air?
Hey, Corey.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, it's Mr. FBU.
Hey, how are you today, man?
Hey, you shouldn't have cut that guy off so fast. He might have had something else to add.
He's welcome to call back.
Right. Well, that's cool. I just, anyways, man, been talking. I like your show. I'm out here watching. I've been having some good conversations with you and Jeff lately. I try to have conversations with Chris, but he kind of jumps the gun on the drop button sometimes. But
well,
on Chris's show.
You know, I might be a little bit to blame for that, in all honesty, because I'm helping him out with this show, and I don't know.
That's
so
cool.
You know, I mean, and there's some cases I've talked to Chris about that. He would rather, in some cases, have you say more. So don't think that that's always Chris in every case. Sometimes it might be me or somebody else.
That's cool, man.
So, you know, I'm just being honest with you. Sometimes it's me hitting the button, too.
That's cool. Yeah, I just, tell you the truth, I'm just kind of a little bit brain dead tonight, but I just wanted to tell you that, let you know I'm out here watching your show.
Thanks,
and
man.
I just wanted to remind you about Fag Bashers Unite! Fag Bashers Unite!
I'd almost forgotten, man. Thanks for that reminder, man. Appreciate that. I guess I need that from time to time, too. Yeah, no, appreciate you always checking out the show, man, and all of your compatriots and compadres that hang out there with you that share your philosophy. You know, more power to you guys. And again, thanks for watching Access Television and contributing. You guys are actually part of Access, like it or not. So, you know, keep up the work. I don't necessarily want to say keep up the good work, but... Hello, caller, you're on the air?
Hi, yeah. Listen, I really believe that you were born in 1947. The more I listen to you, the more I believe in reincarnation, which I really don't believe in. But I want you to know that the stuff you say is the same stuff we said in the 60s, and we were going to change the world. And let me tell you, you know, there isn't going to be any unfolding and uplifting.
You don't think so?
Let me finish.
No, sure.
There's uplifting of more cops' guns. There's more unfolding of handcuffs. There's more unfolding of pedophiles. There's more unfolding of harshness, and it's going to get worse.
Why do you think that is?
It gets better. And the only thing that's going to be better is when Jesus comes to take me home. I don't know about you or anyone else, but just me.
Well,
but I know that back in, you sound just like, because we would get a pound of marijuana and put it in a gallon pot of water and boil it up and drink it up. And we would all sit around and sound just like you.
Okay.
And it's kind of cool that you want to really change the world and be positive, but it ain't happening. Okay.
Well, you know, I appreciate your sentiment. I'm going to go ahead and let you go on that note, but I'm sorry, I do disagree with you, and I do look at things in a more optimistic fashion. I took a lot of influence from a lot of the music artists from the 60s, especially the psychedelic era musicians, and I had the very fortunate opportunity earlier today to meet a person that I respect tremendously, Rocky Erickson, the singer for the 13th Floor Elevators. I met earlier today at a little signing thing that was going on publicly, and I had a chat with him very briefly. But those individuals that set the ball rolling with their music back then, that you're just discussing, the psychedelic era discussions and all this revolution, cultural stuff that was going on, may not have seemed to have had an impact, but think about this. I mean, here I am, a younger person, you know, still checking out that music and checking out that philosophic message that was in the lyrics of the Elevators and the psychedelic movement, and seeing how it's relevant in this day and age. And as far as all the negative things, just like disease, all bad things has to come to the surface so that you can see it, recognize it, and it can heal, whether that be police brutality or pedophilia or anything like that. These unsavory characteristics of humanity have to be acknowledged and recognized. If we just go along saying, oh, I don't want to see that, I don't want to see that, that's negative, Jesus, come help me, I don't want to look, I don't want to see, then you're not participating as fully as you might otherwise be able to. And I would encourage you to, the reincarnation thing, if that's gnawing at you and you're considering reincarnation, I would say that's not a bad thing necessarily. Just go with your intuition and trust what your heart tells you. But there is opportunity for change. If you can't see change between now and the last 30 years, 35 years since the mid-60s, I would say you're just not looking. There's a tremendous amount of change that's happened just in my lifetime that I'm aware of. So, I don't know, I guess it's a matter of perception and perspective. Hello, caller, you're on the air.
Can I come inside you?
You're very persistent, but I'm going to have to say no. Hello, caller, you're on the air. Hello, caller, you're on the air.
Hello?
Hi, how are you?
Well, what is the basic premise of this show?
The basic premise of the show, if you'll allow me to do that, is to try to look at the spiritual causes behind what's taking place on the planet in all areas. If you look at how music is happening, what's popular in music, what's popular in government, what's popular all over, and what's happening, I try to see what's happening in the world and try to get back to the causes. And the causes for all things on this planet are of a spiritual nature. And when we identify the spiritual causes, then we can have a greater understanding of what happens on the physical plane, and we can make the physical plane a much more productive and beautiful place for us all to exchange and share in. And so I'm trying to bring people's minds to those ideas so they'll consider on their own, or at least think about some of these topics one way or another, and perhaps some talking can come out of it, and after the talking, some action can come out of it, and we can help one another. That's my whole idea with the show. Thanks for calling. Hello, caller, you're on the air.
I just couldn't resist.
Hello, caller, you're on the air.
Yes.
How are you?
Sir, first of all, I would like to acknowledge that you're a real smart man, and you're real intelligent. You know what you're talking about, and I just want to acknowledge that. But honestly, what's the whole point of believing or not in reincarnation when you don't know, or I don't know, if we've been reincarnated before, or we used to be that, or we used to be this, and now
I can see where you're coming from on that. I'm going to let you go on that and answer that if I can. We're always the sum total of everything that we've ever been before. So some people might say, oh, through the evolutionary process, we were a little bug, and then we became a fish, and then we became this, and then we became a monkey, and then we became a man. So we're the total of all that evolution. From looking at it from reincarnation, I think once you become human, you are human. You don't go back to being a dog or a cat or a fish. That's a popular misconception. Once you're human, you're human. You just find yourself into different human bodies to do different things and unfold evolution. We couldn't possibly get it right, if you will, or gain salvation in one lifetime. No one can pull that off. We need many lifetimes, and as far as the evidence for it, there are a lot of studies that show young kids that remember previous lives, or our own intuitive understanding. Once we get into meditation and things like this, it can allow us a bit more of expansion of understanding. Then we can see that some of these things might be a bit more real, than you might otherwise think. Just the fact that people are thinking about reincarnation and karma. People may not believe in many things, but so many people believe in karma. It's unbelievable. It factors in. It's something that's in our unconscious. It's something that's in the back of our mind. Karma, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or what comes around goes around, things like that. People feel that way. And that's part of karma. And why do we feel that way? Because it's part of divine law. That's part of us. And we can't help but just go with divine law in our innermost nature. We're compelled to, outside of ourselves. We have no control over it. We can't help but have some understanding at some level of the process of reincarnation. Not everybody acknowledges it as a fact, but we still have inside of us some understanding of it at some level. Hello, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, I don't believe we have any real consciousness after death. I think consciousness is a product of your mind.
Well, what happens to the
physical
energy
mind
that is
in you.
us after we die? Where does that energy, if energy is not destroyed, it's simply transferred, how does that energy exchange or diminish after the death? What do you think happens in your estimation?
Well, you don't necessarily cease to exist. You just don't have any conscious existence. You're like a seed.
Isn't that a paradox or an oxymoron to say you don't necessarily exist, but you have consciousness, or you don't have consciousness? I'm not following you.
Well, you don't have individuality. Like right now, see, you're born in the flesh, and we're all born into this relativistic world where we have individuality.
Right.
Well, outside of this world, you have oneness with all things. You're oneness with the universe, with everything. But what comes with that is a loss of individuality. And whenever you lose individuality, you actually lose everything that you consider to be you right now, like all your knowledge.
Well, I would consider that a nirvana state, an
Right.
ultimate...
It's a state of being at one with everything, but not being consciously aware of your individuality, if you can comprehend that.
Well, I have to disagree with you entirely and wholeheartedly. Even at the highest levels of unfolding, at the level of a universe, a planet, the consciousness that indwells those bodies is still individualized. And in the afterlife, there's still hierarchical dispensation or an unfolding that there are different levels. Even at high spiritual levels, you still maintain, and that's, if you read a lot of esoteric writing, or if you just trust your intuition, I think you'll see that that is indeed the case, that from an experiential point, you can gain real experience and understanding in your own life that would lead you to perhaps consider otherwise, that you never lose your individuality. And that's why we can't have just one world order of, one government, one religion, one this, one that, because that's not how our human nature is set up. It's against divine law and against human nature to have everything the same. We all have individual aspects that we all maintain, regardless of either dying, living, whatever. We all evolve, and that individual aspect of us stays intact, even though we can appreciate and allow and become part of a greater understanding and whole. We still are individual within that whole. And that is a paradox, I guess, to a certain degree as well. But nonetheless, we still maintain our own. Once we're self-conscious and aware, as humans are, we always maintain some kernel of our individual self-conscious existence in spite of, it's like a drop of water finding its way back into the sea. That drop of water may become part of the ocean and be indistinguishable from the other water, but still, you can still pull a cell, or you can still pull, some of that water out and separate it to its component parts. It's kind of the same concept. Out of many, one, whatever. There's hierarchical dispensation, and that's just how nature is, and that's divine law. And individuality is never lost. So I'm not going to be able to get to the other callers. Thank you for taking the time to call. Perhaps catch us again next week. Please check out Jeff Contreras, Therefore I Am, every Tuesday at 10 on Channel 16. Reality Expander, Chris Athanas, is every Thursday, Channel 16 at 10 p.m. I'd like to thank my producer, Chris, for commanding the helm of the Starship Esoterica. Also, we have the metaphysical, philosophical meetings upcoming the 21st, 8 p.m. Opal Divines upstairs, if you're interested. I'd like to thank everybody that took the opportunity to view. We'll be back again next Friday, 8 p.m., Channel 10. Thanks, Austin.